All right, I'm pretty excited about this shoe. It's the Altra Escalante Racer 2. It's the more minimal cousin to the Escalante 4, and personally, I found the ride much, much better. That's where it differs the most. It's similar in fit, but I'll get into all that later. So I'm Nick from Barefoot Run Review, and I'm interested in foot-shaped shoes, barefoot shoes, minimal shoes, whatever you want to call them. And today, you're looking at the Escalante Racer, which is a minimal yet cushioned shoe. It's not going to be barefoot, it's not going to be minimal, but still, it belongs in our rotation sometimes, and I'll get to that one a little later. So let's get into it with the fit. So after a bit of adjustment in the first few runs, I found the fit of the Escalante Racer to be super, super nice. This wide toe box we see from Altra quite a bit, and yes, this one is a wide toe box. You've got ample room around this big toe here. It doesn't taper off too much around this little toe side, as long as you get the length right. So as we're talking about the length, let's talk about the actual sizing. So I go true to size in this, a US size 9 for me. I'm 26.5 centimeter length foot, and it's absolutely perfect for me. Looking at the midfoot is the only area where I have personally a bit of issue, and that's because my midfoot is actually quite a bit wider than anywhere else on my foot, and it's just around this area here. So I actually push out the midfoot area here, and it was a little uncomfortable at first, exactly the same as the Escalante 4. But what I did is basically just loosened off the laces around these first 3 eyelets, and then I'm fine. And with this upper, I feel that it is forgiving for definite, but it's not flexy like the Escalante 4. So I find that the secureness and the lockdown is actually much, much better in this, but still, because it's quite pliable, it's really, really comfortable at the same time. So if we're looking into the heel, differs again slightly from the Escalante 4. It's nice and flexible. There's no structure to it at all. And I got a pretty good lockdown after I relaced with a lace lock in there. It tightened up absolutely fine, as long as I actually got a good lock through this top section rather than this midfoot section, which I like to actually loosen out a bit. I thought it was absolutely perfect for me. Somewhere most people have issues with Altra is the depth of the shoe. Luckily for us, I actually find the depth of the Escalante Racer pretty good. I've got a little bit of room around this toe box to actually flex around, which is actually really nice. Maybe a little tight over this midfoot here, but after maybe 50, 60K, the insole actually started to flatten down a little bit, and that actually gave me a bit more extra room. And as always with Ultras, you could just switch out that insole, something thinner in there, and you get a little bit more depth in the shoe, and it'll make it perfect for you. Again, we see that thin tongue, like we saw in the Escalante 4, and also the original Escalante Racer. I didn't have any issue with that. Sometimes when I slotted my foot in there, it actually folded over, and I just had to do a little bit of readjustment every now and then, but it was okay. It's all right. And I didn't find it uncomfortable at all. It's not got a sharp edge or anything. It's actually pretty good. Back to the heel again here. We don't see the super wide skater shoe fit that we used to see with Ultra, and some people may not like that because they have a wider heel, whereas I know others have a slightly slimmer heel, kind of like me, and you can actually get a really good lockdown in here, mainly because it's actually really flexible. Doesn't come up very high at all around these ankle collars either, so there's no rubbing around there. Something I think we've seen in the Torrent 7 that people have had an issue with. This hasn't got the same kind of style or design, so it's going to be absolutely fine. So in general, I think the fit is actually great. It's listed as the original fit. To be honest, I'd say let's just ignore that classification. It's a pretty wide toe box. It's a similar midfoot to like the Lone Peak and maybe even some of the Olympus models. It's just not the slim shoes like we've seen from Ultra, maybe like the Timp or the Rivera, for example. So let's get into the feel of this shoe. So this is what I'm more excited about. I had a lot of fun in this shoe, and this was coming straight off the Escalante 4, which was quite a soft shoe in comparison. This is definitely firm. And personally, that's kind of what I like. I like a firmer shoe. I like to be able to get good ground feel or feel solid on the floor and get some good feedback, proprioception. And it felt really, really good. After maybe 60K, I did find it actually broke in a bit and softened up a little bit. But to be honest, it's still a lot firmer than the Escalante 4 out of the box for definite. So we have got some flex. We've got some flex in the forefoot, a little bit of torsional flex as well. But I've heard from TD Miller just saying that the original Escalante Racer was definitely a lot more flexible. So that's something to keep in mind. It could be an advantage, it could be a disadvantage. It depends what you want. If you want a little bit more speed, maybe having a little bit of pop back would actually be a good thing. And it's actually helped me get a 5K PR recently, which I'm pretty happy about. But if you're looking for that minimal, flexible feel, then maybe, I don't know, try and find the original Escalante on a great deal. It might be really good for you. Otherwise, I'd say stick to more minimal shoes. You get more flexibility out of real minimal shoes. But anyway, back to the Escalante Racer. Feels good. So because this upper is secure yet pliable at the same time, I found it really, really comfortable. So as soon as I get my foot locked in place, I don't feel like I'm slipping around. I'm definitely secure in there, but at the same time, it's just forgiving in a way that kind of molds to your foot like a sock. This kind of made me feel really good going at higher speeds. So that's something I had a bit of an issue with the Escalante 4 was at higher speeds, I felt like it was a bit sloppy. I was kind of moving around in the cushion. And then at the same time, with that more flexible kind of feel to the actual upper, I felt like I was slipping over the sides. I didn't in the Racer. And that's because of two things. It's that firmer midsole, so I wasn't rolling around as much. And then this slightly more secure upper, basically meaning I'm not going to be falling over the sides as much, which in combination made a really, really good feel. So looking at the outsole, we have the rubber in the forefoot here, and then also in the heel as well, and nothing through the midfoot around here. And this differs from the original. I used to be a full rubber sole. Now they've actually exposed some of the EVA foam in this midfoot around here, which probably means it won't be as durable. At the same time, that means it drops some weight. So it's a give and take. And because these aren't high wear areas, it makes sense why you don't need any rubber through this area. But that might be a personal thing. Have a look at the underside of your shoes, see where you wear on the actual shoe. Usually you'd see the heel and maybe somewhere around this forefoot will be the higher wear areas. And if that's you, that's fine. If you actually wear through somewhere around this midfoot, maybe this isn't for you, but it's just a personal thing. And as for grip, having that rubber just around here and in the heel, it was absolutely fine. I've run in the wet on wet roads and I didn't feel any slippage at all. I even took these onto the trail, even though I don't suggest it really. And to be honest, it was actually pretty good. So let's talk about the durability of the shoe. So there's a few areas which might be of concern for some people in terms of durability. But overall, I actually think this is going to be a better bet than some of the other Ultras out there. So let's start. This upper, it's a mesh that you may push through the outside of this forefoot if you have a little bit of a wider forefoot, midfoot like me. You're going to be putting pressure on this, and over time, that's going to wear. I know we've not really seen this from some of the other Escalante models, so maybe that's a ill-advised concern. But at the same time, looking at this mesh, it is a very wide weave here, and I do have a bit of concern around that. Looking into the midsole, because this is a little bit firmer, I actually think we're going to get some good longevity out of this. Like I said, it's already started to soften a little bit, and usually we do see that with Ultra midsoles. They usually flatten out pretty quickly, but from then on, you're going to have a very similar feel for hundreds and hundreds of miles to come. So as this is the firmer kind of foam, I think that's going to be a good thing. And the outsole is the other thing. So again, just have a look at your wear pattern. Have a look at if it's in this forefoot area and the heel area. And because we got, I'd say enough rubber on here, I don't think this is the area of concern. Lastly, that inner liner, well, it could create a bit of friction. If you don't get your sizing right, then I could see that you could actually wear through this heel here. It's just key again. Make sure you get the sizing right. Make sure you get the lacing right as well. Use this lace lock if you actually need to. And I think you'll be okay with that in the end. So overall, I think it's probably going to be this upper that's going to go first. But in comparison to some of the Ultra shoes that we've seen recently, I think this is going to go a lot further. I'm hoping to push this to maybe 1,000 kilometers. And well, we'll see if I get there. I've already got just over 100 kilometers on these. And to be honest, they're looking perfect. So in conclusion, I hope you've kind of picked up on my enthusiasm here. Yes, I'm a minimal runner. I run in barefoot shoes. I run barefoot sometimes. I run in sandals. But at the same time, I still think there's a place for some cushion in your rotation. And that may be when you're trying to get a new PR, or you're coming off some barefoot training, which means that your feet are a little more fatigued than normal. Your calves are really, really sore. Throwing in a cushioned shoe is not a bad thing at that stage. We don't have to be barefoot all the time, but we use it as a training tool instead. So for some people, I know that this will be their minimal shoe, and that's okay as well. It's still got the flexibility in there. Yes, it's 20 millimeters, and by the running industry standard, yes, that's minimal, but it's all about you. What are you used to? So if you find that this is the level that you're comfortable with, and it definitely will still give you a workout in the calves and the feet. If that's where you're at, that's great. It'll work for you. So I think it's kind of flexible in those kind of ways. I personally would take this. Well, I did take this up to a half marathon already. That's a personal thing. You could take this as far as you want to, but I know a lot of people will be using these for maybe their 5K, their 10K efforts, maybe a little bit more similar to racing flats like they used to be. I know my dad keeps on coming back to the point when I'm rocking up in my minimal shoes. He mentions, well, they're just racing flats, aren't they? Maybe they are. Maybe they got a bit of a different shape, but at the same time, I get the sentiment. But yeah, anyway, I'm enthusiastic about it. I like the feel. I like the space in the toe box around here. It feels like I've got the room where I want it, but locked down where I need it at the same time. And if I want to run fast, I'm going to be putting these shoes on because that slight extra cushion with the familiar feel, that flexibility still means I run my fastest. And that's a personal thing. So these are at $140 right now. I know that comes in $10 more than the Escalante 4, but it's a very different shoe. Even though the fit is very similar, the wider toe box, the midfoot being similar, and the heel being similar, the feel is very, very different. So you need to decide, what do you want? Do you want that everyday, soft, cushioned, long run shoe? Or do you want this firmer, faster, if you want to call it that, minimal kind of aspect to a shoe? And well, that's up to you. I like it. I'm pretty sure you'll like it. Tell me what you like. I'm going to put a link in the description to my full written review about this. And then also you'll find plenty more written reviews and video reviews either on my channel or on my blog, which is barefootrunreview.com. And just in general, please support. Please put your comments in the section down below and ask away. Enjoy the Escalante Racer.